Alright, what's going on, guys? Sam Climber here with Charged Up Bass. And guys, you know, one of my favorite things in the world to do is sit out there, cast all day, and have a super smooth reel. You know, when I'm casting it out or reeling it in, I want it to be as smooth as humanly possible. Now, a lot of things can happen. A lot of reel companies out there always say, well, you don't need to do anything to our reels. You know, they're fine all the way through and through. But as you know, I'm sure, the reason why you're watching this video is your reel is starting to sound a little grindy. You can feel those gears working against each other, and your reel's just not as smooth as it was when you bought it. I have a ton of Shimano reels, so if you're a Shimano guy or girl, this is probably the video for you. Reels are pretty universal. They've got a lot of the same parts in them, so you know, you might even find this video helpful if you've got like an Abu or a Luz or a 13 fishing, some other type of bait casting reel. I'll be working on a Shimano Curado K, but let's go ahead and get into today's video. So a few essentials that I have when I'm cleaning my reel is gonna be just a little kit like this. It's got some needle nose pliers, it's got a screwdriver, all sorts of different bits. You will definitely need Phillips head, so make sure you have some of those. And I also have a little kit like this. You can get these at Home Depot for like $5 or something, so really cheap, inexpensive. We're not getting too technical. You're gonna have to have, on some reels, you need two different types of Phillips head, a real bigger size and a lot smaller size. So just make sure you check the screws and make sure you know which ones you need, because on a lot of the higher end Shimanos, you need a real small Phillips head to get in some of those. I also like to have a good set of pliers. These are just old ones, and I really like the ones that have plastic coverings on them, just so you don't scratch up your reel. But anything will do just to get that nut off. You can even use like a little ratchet or something. What you actually use to lubricate your reels is very important. And this is one tip for myself. I love cleaning my reels. You know, it makes them feel a lot better while I'm using them. But white lithium grease here, I have found to be one of the smoothest greases that you can put in your reel for your gears. Now, first things first, you put grease on the gears and you put oil in the bearings. Do not mix those up. If you put grease in the bearings, they're sealed really well, so grease might not get in them, but if you do, it's gonna gum up those bearings. Those bearings are supposed to spin, and the bearings allow your spool to, you know, cast. It allows you to cast a lot better. You know, the oil's there for faster moving stuff, and the gears, you're gonna want the grease. The white lithium grease is very viscous. It's a lot more viscous than, you know, some of like the Ardent reel kit or some other things you can get on the market. You will have to maintenance your reels a little bit more with this, but I'm telling you, this is my secret to ultra smooth reels all the time. Next essential is going to be your oil. I just use the Shimano Bantam oil because they send it in like every single bait casting reel. It's pretty solid. They do sell another one. This is just called Bantam oil. They do sell another one which is a little better, but I mean, this is probably as good as it gets as well. Now, next thing, instead of working on, you know, I'm working on my boat here, and the carpet is dark gray. Probably not what you want. A lot of the parts are actually, you know, black and dark gray. So I like to have a white background. This is just a little white towel that I found in the house. Now, let's go ahead and get started taking the reel apart. All right, so I've tucked the towel underneath my hatch here, so I have a nice white background. What I'm gonna do is get my screwdrivers ready. So I know I'm going to need a Phillips head. So I'm gonna pop this guy out here, get that one, and then I've also got a little bigger one for the bigger screws. That's what I was talking about. All right, so there we go. So I'm gonna take this off. It's Carolina rig, so I'm just gonna clip it at the very top. Okay, so now we're gonna wind the line back on. Now hopefully you've had your reel for a little bit and you know how to get the side plate off. So this is a Curado K. You know, you can hear the line hitting on itself on the reel, but I can feel a little geariness in it, so it definitely needs to be cleaned. So what we're gonna do for a Curado K, go underneath here, flick that up. We'll zoom in just a little bit. There we go. Flick that up. You've got your internal brakes here. I like to hold it with my finger and go ahead and slide that spool out. Sometimes it's pretty difficult. Your line gets all wrapped up underneath, real pain in the butt. But eventually, with enough enough force, hopefully it comes out here. Alright, after a lot of work, I finally got that spool out. It's probably going to be a pain to get back in, but I'm just going to wrap it back up. Set it to the side. You can tape it or something so it doesn't unwind itself. But I'm just going to set it down. Hopefully it doesn't get lost anywhere. So now we're left with the rest of the reel here. So on the Curado K, like I was saying, you're going to have to know where your screw holes are. There's going to be 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, and then 4 right behind where that spool was. We're going to go ahead. And what I like to do is organize my stuff on the side, kind of not exactly in order of how it comes out, but if I'm holding my reel like this, I know this front screw will go up top, I know this next one will go behind it, and so on and so forth. Maybe I'll even hold it like this and do it like that. So we're going to take this one out, it's the main one, goes there, go backwards from it, or I guess forwards on your screen, do one there, one behind that one, coming out here, and the one where the spool goes, it's a silver screw, so we're just going to go ahead, take it out. And now we're not going to be doing a huge in-depth gear cleaning and everything. That's pretty self-explanatory on your own, but you can clean out your gears entirely and make sure you get all that. So all these are already off. Now to get the handle off, what you're gonna do is unscrew this guy here. And I'm not gonna do the handle cleaning. All you have to do is take these off by getting a screwdriver in there. There's a screw, and you clean those. Mine are pretty good. I did those a couple days ago. Alright, so we're gonna unscrew this here. And this is where organization comes in handy a lot. So that screw comes off. You're gonna pop the handle part off there, and this is where pliers are good to get on this nut. Just a few small turns, and watch out. You want to hold your handle like this. Make sure you're holding it because there is a spring that will pop it off easy for you. So you can see I've got my little, oh, maybe, nope, you can't see that actually. My bad, guys. Alright, there we go. So now you can see I've got everything in order of which I took it off going this way. I'm gonna move them over, make a little space. So next comes off the star for your drag. Next coming off is a spring, and I'm doing them top down. So if I'm holding my reel up like this with the shaft pointed up, I'm gonna set it down exactly the way I would put it on. Next up is the actual drag, the part that the drag star turns. I'm not sure all the names on these. This is just kind of how I do it. And there is another washer on the back side, which just fell off here, so be careful of this. And it goes right on the bottom there. Now next up, there's 2 washers right here. Make sure those are facing the right way or your drag will get messed up. And everything will slide out. Now there's a bearing in here, so be very, very careful pulling this out. There's a bearing here and another washer. You can see some of that old grease, that old white lithium grease. See how it's still white? So that means it was still good, still pretty solid, just ready for another cleaning. Now I believe the Curado series has another bearing inside the tension area. So we're gonna pop this off real quick and look at it. Usually you don't need to do too much with it, but it does look like there's a little gunk in there. So you've got bearing here, very important bearing on the other side of the spool that you will need to get. But one thing I also do love having are Q-tips. They allow you to get in small places and just kind of rub out all the stuff you need to rub out. So looks like there's some grease in there, get that out. And you can also take the bearing out. There's a little lock in there. Just with Q-tips, make sure you don't get any of the cotton stuff inside of it. So there we go. You can see the bearing in here. So I've got some paper towels. keep everything nice and clean. So what we're gonna do, to get the old grease off, I just take a paper towel, give it a few turns, use my finger to rub against the gear, and we're just gonna give it a couple spins, move it, give it a couple spins, move it, give it a couple spins. Same thing on the other gear, the smaller gear. Give it a couple turns, move it, give it a couple turns. Try to get a lot of that excess grease off that we did from last time. Okay. Alright, so now we have all our main parts, and this is where you can take these gears off, just kind of in the steps that we already did. You know, make sure you do everything top down. And we're gonna keep going. This is where your drag is. Here's your drag washers. And then you can actually look at the bottom side of your gear here, and you definitely want to clean this. And these are brass, so they're very strong. Something like the Metaniums, they've got a different type of material in it. But these are brass and they're very strong. I believe the Metaniums have aluminum gears. So if you're a big Shimano nerd, you should know the differences. And if you're a big Shimano nerd, you probably aren't going to be watching my videos over how to clean a Shimano reel. But there you go. Here's the main body. See, remember, there's another bearing. It is a little dirty, so we're going to take our Q-tip, just give it a little rub, get some of that stuff out. And you can take the bearing all the way out. But here's the main parts of the reel. What we're going to do now is we've got our, since the bearings are exposed and open, I don't like to open them very much, and as little air that they see is better for me. So we're going to take our Bantam oil, or whatever oil you have. Check our phone real quick because it's ringing. And now I like to do no more than 2 drops. So just a quick 1, 2. It's getting in there, working its way in. There we go, solid. And once you have all this stuff out, like you can take the springs out here, you can take this little gear out. I don't really mess with it. Most of the time it's pretty good. You know, I don't have to mess with it, so I don't. And they look fine right now. But if you want to do a full cleaning and everything, you can take the worm gear out, you can do all that. I just don't, for the sake of the video, I'm not going to do that and bore y'all. So we're going to go ahead and start putting the pieces back together here. Make sure everything's sitting in nice and snug. A lot of these have to catch in certain areas. Let's go in there. I had a washer, little tiny washer on top of it. Set that back on. Oil's in there already, and we're going to start rebuilding. You know, I mainly only took all this off so you could see the insides. All right, so now white lithium grease coming out. This is the Lucas oil. I don't have a sponsorship, would love one, but you know, any white lithium grease will do. All right, so what I'd like to do is I like to hold it right here and apply as I turn the gear. And it doesn't have to be a thick coat, just enough to fill the teeth. We'll work it through. It's gonna get in there, gonna get messy for a little bit, but boom, we're already done. Now we're gonna wipe the top of the gear, not the gears themselves, or not the teeth of the gears, but we're gonna wipe right on top there. And you don't want a lot of excess on this other gear, so we're gonna use the Q-tip and spread it around, There we go. All right, so that's done. So that's all greased up. You won't need grease again. Now we're gonna take our side plate here, get some grease, drop a few in the roller bearings, 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to do the tension knob. Do 1, 2, move it around. And you're all done with that. All right, so now that we've got all that, we can put this side plate back on. Watch out, that bearing will pop out on you. So there's roller bearings and there's another bearing right there. And make sure you tuck your towel in or it will fly away and mess everything up. We're gonna put our tension knob back on. Make sure not to tighten it too far down, or your spool will have a hard time going in. Just enough to where it's comfortable and you can feel it tighten up a little bit. All right, so we're gonna put our washers on. Nope, there we are. There we are. Remember, there's a washer under there, put that on. And it helps to hold the worm gear with your finger here sometimes if you can't get it going or it's fighting against you. That goes down. Spring goes on. Wind's gonna be blowing today. All right, that's gonna tighten on there and make sure it sets all the way in. So you see this space? Yeah, you don't want that. You want to make sure you hold that worm gear where this can set all the way down. And you want to see, come on, focus. Hocus focus. There we go. You want to see the flat part of your drive shaft meet up with, come on. You want to see the flat part of that drive shaft meet the flat part of your star drag there. There we go. All right, hopefully this wasn't too blurry for y'all and got out of focus, so we'll find out. So again, holding the handle down with my fingers, I'm gonna put this nut back on. Make sure you put it on straight. Tighten that star drag down so the handle sits correct. Now, you should be able to tighten it down all the way. There we go. And what I like to do, since this has got a lot of different, you know, what's it called? Since it's got a bunch of stars in here and it can fit a bunch of different ways, I like to make a pointy side of this nut point towards the screw hole. And that's just an easy way I like to line it up there. All right, screw's gonna go back on. Boom. I will say the Curado K is a lot easier than a lot of the more expensive Shimanos, but it's very universal when it comes to just any fishing reel on the market there. So it feels good, everything's moving correctly, drag's working, clicking. So what we're gonna do now is secure it back. So we're gonna hold it the same way we had it, just like this. Start at the very top. And going in. Next is behind it. And in. Right behind the thumb bar, we're gonna go ahead and switch to a different one, little finer head, or finer, oh, nope, never mind. There we go, and in. And now the one inside the spool, where the spool goes. In. All right. Now what I like to do also is I'll get an extra Q-tip sometimes and go ahead and clean inside the reel here. A lot of those places you can hit the worm gear a couple times, get that excess grease out of there. You can hit inside where the spool spins. You can hit underneath, hit your hit the feet of the reel. Just make it look nice and pretty. So now we got this. So one of the easiest ways I've found to put your spool back into your reel is you take your line, you run it into the spool, and you hold it tight with your finger on the very front of the spool here and holding the line. That way your line doesn't backtrack and go outside of it, outside of the reel. And we're gonna line it up, push it in right there, and boom, you're done. Now what you're gonna do to close it back up, pretty self-explanatory. Lock that in, and there you go. Your reel is back and smooth, back and spinning real good. Make sure to check your tension knob, tighten it up. There we go. Yep, feel that tension tighten up, loose, and it's spinning good. And look at that. solid performance, and it's still going. Even that line hitting it, you know, it ain't stopping. Alright guys, hopefully you learned a little bit about cleaning your reel. If you want to see a different brand of reel, like a Luz, Abu, or something like that, let me know down below. But you know, the Curado K is pretty standard. You know, you've got your screws, your side plates, and most of them, you know, you'll figure it out as you have that reel. But make sure to go subscribe. You know, I really do appreciate it. We're coming up on 500 subscribers. Definitely follow me on Instagram or Facebook. You know, I do a lot more posting there, the day-to-day stuff, on the water, you know, catching fish. So keep up with that, guys, and I'll see you next time. Charged up Bassin'.